Hello, everybody. Rick DiClemente from Pittsburgh, and this is, I think, episode 11 of Astrology Unplugged. And I've been doing a lot of talking about astrology. But what led me to tonight is I remembered in '82 and '84, I used to have a radio show, a small radio show in the Wheeling, Pittsburgh area. And now and then I would have different guests on for various reasons. And the reason for tonight is a lot of people are quite concerned with where this society is going, what their job, what their role is, what can be done. They're not happy with the direction of the country, etc., etc. So rather than pity party and moping or listening to me, I decided to invite three of my very good friends. They are a definite femme fatale trio. And I'll tell you about them and introduce them in a minute. Mainly because they have been frequenting a wonderful place called Damanhur, which is in northern part of Italy. It is, I like what Gina called it, a beta trial community. It is a model community. Some people might see its roots down in a hippie commune way long ago, but this is much more than that. They got their own university. It's fabulous. I'm not going to do much talking. I'm going to turn it over to them. And then I want to hear about the things they're doing, the things they're teaching, things they're providing. They also have their own company, which is called Creative One Marketing. As you might see from the book, Gina is the one who inspired me to write The Exquisite Zodiac, and she was the editor of that book, and I much appreciated that. That is Gina Mazza, 1/3 of the group. Her compatriots are Ann Heltzel, who is up in the Youngstown area, and Jennifer Evanko, who has the bunny ears on. You can't find her anywhere because she's always all over the world. These gals have studied with, what's the guy's name out west? Deepak Chopra, yeah. They've studied with him. They've studied with Gene Houston. All kind of things going on. So I'm going to turn it over to them and let them tell you about themselves. Tell us about your story, Gina, you and the girls.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for having the three of us on. We're truly honored to be your first guests. And hi, everyone. Happy December. We thought we would just give you a really quick background on each of us, just so you can sort of have a context for what we're going to share later in the conversation about Damanhur. The three of us met when we were young moms. We all had little kids, and we're working in totally separate careers, different than what we do now. And I'll let each of my sisters talk about what their careers were at that time. For me, I was running a company that was an accounting and marketing consulting company and working in corporate marketing. And so within this context of being these professional young moms, we met, our paths crossed. And we just quickly aligned with one another and realized that we were all on what I would call a Gnostic path, a path to understanding the spiritual side of life through our own experiences. And we found in each other these beautiful mirrors that we could help each other reflect back what we were going through and how we were through that experience of opening our intuition, opening our creative faculties, really looking deeply, going in deeper and deeper inward. And it was a really powerful and really beautiful and important experience to have each other to talk to about these experiences that we were going through. It was through Jennifer, who was told by her mentor and our dear friend Gene Houston about Damanhur. So that kind of brings us current, and I'll let one of the other ladies take over from there.
It's an amazing place that we've been able to take our professions, take what we're strong in, and we've each integrated who we are as spiritual beings into our new careers. And we've decided to work together. And, you know, they say most times don't work with family, don't work with friends, you know, it's just a nightmare. And it's been an incredible blessing for us. And so it's certainly a model that we feel needs to be spread.
The thing that I wanted to share is we all need this mirroring it's not a individual that is going to go into this enlightenment, to go into this next level of consciousness. It is the collective. We rely on each other to mirror each other. So creating a community around yourself. And it starts with, it's not like a number of years ago we were looking to find that other person to mirror back to us. It was, we started to do the work ourselves. We started to go inward. And part of that was, what can help me on this path? And we called it in. And then, the synchronicities that happened that brought these two women to me. And then I had another part of me that was this mother of kids. And they were all separate roles I played. And being with these two women and going on this path, I started realizing how I can bring them all together, how I can be just me in all of the different roles I play. Damanhur has been an amazing experience. We first heard about Damanhur through Jean Houston. Jean Houston does a lot of work in quantum. And so she told me about this place where they do research like spiritual physics and things that are quantum science, but they're also etheric. And there we go. Beautiful. So we went to Damanhur, and it's a place, my first experience there was to realize when they say their version of namaste, instead of namaste, they say kante, which means I am with you. And when they say it, it's not just words. They actually live it. You feel like you've just got a hug just by the words kante. And it's this essence of that spiritual part of them is completely integrated into their everyday life. And they have a practical life. They have science, they have education, they have families, they have, everyday situations like we do, but their underpinning is this spiritual awareness.
So this is a community where people live in houses that they've built or they bought or rented. What's going on with the physical community? I know they have their own university.
Jean is really good at talking about the community aspect of Damanhur.
So the Damanhur was actually started by a man who is affectionately called Falco, and it was started 41 years ago, just as, again, an experiment, and it wasn't something that he probably set out to do initially as a community. He set out to do research on various aspects of life. He's someone who obviously was very gifted with higher consciousness and intuitive gifts from the time he was a young boy. And he was an explorer. He just wanted to explore these things. So he got a group of friends together and they started to do research on lots of different things related to metaphysics, medicine, science, and it slowly grew into a community, what we might call today an intentional community, because they wanted to be in proximity to each other in order to, as the three of us were just explaining, live together, work together, explore together, be on the path together. And so it just grew from there to the point where today it's been anywhere from between 600 to 1,000 people. A lot of them are residents, but not everyone is a citizen. There are people, there are 4 different levels of connection to Damanhur. It doesn't have to be that you're a citizen. So there are people connected to Damanhur from all over the world. But in terms of the number of people who actually live within the community, it's around 600 to 800 people. And it's actually not, as you would imagine, it's not a commune. It's not a place that's set off from other goings on in the area. It's very much integrated into the landscape of the entire region. So you have many people who aren't really connected to Damanhur that live amongst these homes that are called nucleos, where the citizens live. And the nucleos are, we got to experience them in many different ways and many different times of being over there. But what they basically are, if you can imagine, first, the wonderful Italian craftsmanship of just pulling together a beautiful structure that is integrated into the landscape with concern for the landscape and not just thrown together like we sometimes do here in the US. And you have that with about 20 people who are actually caretaking this residence and responsible for it in terms of the daily interaction, the upkeep, the cleaning, the cooking, and so forth. And they all share a common goal or a common interest. Like one nucleo, for example, will be people who are interested in artistic pursuits. Another nucleo will be people who are interested in aspects of nature or agriculture. And so you've got a family. You've got a family of 20 people. And it, again, is a wonderful model for a different way to live than we live here in the US. And I was really struck by that in an unexpected way when I first went over, because I personally was going through this experience of just thinking through how in the United States and other parts of the world, the goal, so to speak, is to own a big house with big property and all these accoutrements. And I was going through this process of thinking, gosh, what a kind of waste of resources that is, in a sense, because we're all replicating, we all need caregivers to take care of our children because we're alone. We need landscapers to come take care of our yard because we have this property to take care of, and somebody to come and clean the house perhaps. And we need to bring the food in from the, grocery store into the house. And wouldn't it make more sense if we lived not as a throwback to the hunter-gatherer days, but in a sense, bringing some aspects of that existence into our daily reality, where we have a community around us who can support us. It makes sense, right?
Working outside of Damanhur and make a huge income. You can work in Damanhur and have a very small income, and everybody pays the same amount to live in the home. So everybody's equal. They have their own political system where that role of whether it's considered like more like a mayor or, any level of the governance, you're constantly stepping in and out of those roles. So there's no hierarchy. There's no, that person's been in that role for, 20 years or whatever. They take the ego out of community.
So what is it, may I ask, that keeps these people operating at a higher level, where they're constantly keeping in mind the health and well-being of the whole?
Every moment of their day, they realize that I am here for the higher good of this community and the world and the cosmos, and they live and breathe it, and they learn it. Every Monday is their day where there's no excuses. The world stops for them, and they gather together, and they practice, and they learn, and they study. So they have this common thread of this spiritual base.
Why is it we don't have it in our country, in many countries?
Well, we're so diversified, everywhere else in the world is so diversified, and we don't have the common threads that they have. And they really are a model. The UN has called them a model. So it's something that it is a place that they want people to come and study and see those little intricacies that make that work, and to take it back to their own communities.
Yeah, Leanne, they also, an important part of Damanhurian is their inner life. They are you were showing pictures of the temples of humankind a minute ago. These are temples that they built into the mountain. And the process of hand digging them into the mountain, these rooms, was a process of creating space inside space. So everything is a inner meditation or a journey inward to explore who they are. So again, they have their normal everyday life. They have to go do groceries or do their work or do deal with the outside world. But the underpinning for all of them is this understanding that their inner life is as infinite as the outer life is, and to research. Everyone there is involved in some kind of research that is a spiritual back research.
Why is it so critical? I understand these people have gone underground and carved these things.
Look at that. That picture you have there is all the sacred languages from around the world and all the different cultures, all in a meditation in one room.
It's just
incredible.
Astounding, the number of them and the detail. Are these like their mystical doorways?
You have some deep, it's not super brains that it's all in their intellect. It's the depth that they don't, in America here, they keep saying we do astral travel, or we do past life, or we do, but you don't go deep in something. And in Damanhur, they'll give you, at the beginning, they'll give you a nice taste of all the different mysteries or the spiritual ways to go, but then they encourage you to go deep in something, in one thing, and really research and understand what it means to you and bring out some wisdom for them.
I understand how deep astrology works, and I did do the chart. Is his name Falco?
Yes.
And I understand he's passed on. He was a Gemini, and I did do his chart, which, because, the head of the corporation or the head of the institution, the rest will follow. And he did have a lot of Aquarius in him. And I mean, the thing that strikes you so strongly about this place is it's so Aquarian. You have this. How do they avoid conflict?
Well, they don't. But again, they have an awareness that, as Leanne said, they're all choosing to be a part of this bigger, what they call a popolo, which is another word for people. So they're part of popolo spirituale, which is a spiritual people. And so they have that awareness that it's all for the greater good. It's not perfect. We're not, it's not a utopian society in the sense
right.
They don't have a humanity about themselves. I mean, they're humans just like the rest of us. Maybe even more so because they're exploring all of those aspects of themselves. What Falco recommended that they do when times of strife came up is to play it out through their art. They have acted out different scenarios of conflict through game playing. And it's a community of people who aren't running away from looking at themselves. They run towards that. And so when there's conflict, the tendency is not to push it under the rug, but to put it out in the open and to work it out together.
Elke asked what language is spoken there?
Well, it's about, I think, 60% Italian. So you hear Italian spoken, of course. But you hear all languages, a lot of English, of course, because there's people from all over the world, and English is one of the biggest languages. But because it's in Europe, you also get many people from different countries throughout Europe, so you hear all of those languages being spoken as well.
When we go there, we have an ambassador and a group of people that are with us that are translators also. So you always they go out of their way to communicate with us.
What is it? They're in their 41st year now, I understand. Mm-hmm. And any entity in the 41st year will have Uranus from their birth chart come opposite itself. For a human being, it's the midlife crisis. I would think that this group has much less trouble making this switch than most people.
Well, this is definitely a pivotal time for them. You asked about conflict, and Gina was saying how they move towards conflict as a way to grow. Their nucleos are really for that reason as well. They live in these communities because it's hardest to avoid conflict with people that are right there to mirror it back to you so that you can. I wanted to say about what you asked about the 41st year here, with Falco passing 2 years ago now. It's been a big transition period because they had a leader, and it was a pyramid where you had a leader who ultimately, he didn't run the politics, but he ran the spiritual aspect. So you'd have the political and the community needs, and then if things came to a standstill, he could step in and make the decision or say yes or no or give some advice. but now you lost that figure, and now it's becoming, they're having to step up and become more open to the world around them. They're doing a lot more of outreach. And from my observation over the last few years, they have gone through some major changes, and they're, I think, up to the task. They're really doing well.
Yeah, well, they're dealing with it, right? They're facing it, and
Yes.
they've got the right principles. Plus, they're already very Iranian. What is it that, what do the people in the outer community say about them?
You mentioned the hippie cult. I mean, it was an Egyptian kind of hippie cult 40 years ago when they first, very quiet, very secretive. For 15 years, nobody knew they were digging these temples underground. They were completely secret.
Wow.
So the community, of course, did not really appreciate. You're in a very Catholic country in Italy, and you had these strange kids out there living in the mountain communally. So they really had a lot of aggression against them. They still have, in the town, they still have some people that don't care for them, but they have done so many wonderful things for the community that they now are actually the mayor of that Vidacro. Is that how you say it, Gina? Vidacro.
How do they differ from a cult? Do I dare whisper that word in the present United States?
For the first day, I guess, Gina and I were scared shitless, really, because we're looking at these people that there's something in their eyes. There's something different about them. They're so happy. I had never seen people that happy before. And everything is, it's like you're really entering like a Dr. Seuss storybook. It's just so colorful, and everything just looks really different there. There's something that you couldn't put your finger on, and then we hear about these massive temples that were carved out by hand by people that weren't engineers. They didn't know how to make things safe. I mean, we were just like kind of freaking out. We're thinking, where's Jen brought us? Where's the Kool-Aid? Like, what are we doing here? And it took us about a day, and then we realized that spark that we see in people's eyes was this deep joy, and we began to acclimate to who they were as a community. But it is really different, and I don't know how you define a cult. I don't really know how you define a cult. I know how we fearfully look at cults. These are people that do choose to live together.
I'll say something clearly. You and Gina and Jennifer, I know your charts well. You all have very strong Neptunes. And this group is obviously, and I'm not going to go far out here, this group is obviously being controlled, if you will, by Neptune. In other words, it's being decreed by spirit. It's being decreed by spirit. And now that's a wonderful thing in listening to what the Holy Spirit says, or whatever word you have and all that. But the problem with that, I see it firsthand all the time, is you get your weirdos. You get your weirdos that, I'm not going to go into names, but
I did joke that when I first went there, it was kind of like Whoville meets Avatar meets a Fellini movie, right? And I did have this experience of, did I just drink the Kool-Aid? Did I just take the blue pill or the red pill?
Yeah.
And for us to feel that, for the three of us who've been on this path of inquiry for decades, to feel that, it's not like, nothing really freaks us out anymore, is what I'm trying to say. And this place freaked me out because it was complex. It was deep. It was
right.
Deeper than I could
real.
And it's real. I would add that that Falco used to say that the only dogma at Damanhur is change. The only dogma is change. So they're not a static community. They do have a set of philosophies that they live by, but it's very much open to evolution. They know that they're evolving as a community. We're evolving as a humanity. And so it's not like, this is the way we've always done it, this is the way it has to be done. No, they're always recapitulating and looking at new ways to do things and what works, what serves us now, you know. And so
that's marvelous. Now, how are you ambassadors going to spread the word besides we're doing it right now? How's this word going to spread organically?
Well, I'd like to also address the when I first went there, I went with Jean Houston, and I was there to study a conference in Milan on consciousness. And we were listening to Irving Laszlo and a number of people speak on consciousness. And Damanhur is very close to Milan, so we took a trip up to Damanhur. And the thing that separates it for me from a cult is very interesting. They are really on the cutting edge of science. They are bringing research and science and esoteric and spirituality together. So they don't just take something for granted. And if you say, oh, I saw, you know, a vision or whatever, they don't go for that wow experience. They want to back it up and test and research and understand it. And that's a big difference.
It's very Gemini Aquarian too.
Yeah, so it's wonderful. And, you know, as far as them reaching out to the United States and other places, they have ambassadors that go around the world. I'm in touch with their ambassador in Australia and in Croatia and a number of places they're doing work. And now they have I believe, Crotolo Sesame, who is the ambassador that comes here to Pittsburgh. He is doing a work at Harvard on leadership and consciousness.
That's the first step, right, is to look inward. We all have the same soul. We all have the same core desires, and we're getting it out. You know, people are actually finally expressing how they're deeply feeling, and, you know, it's not all pretty, but at least people are taking the step of bringing it outside. But we really need to all as a collective start to look inside, and they want people to come and look at what they're doing and take back to their community what they feel works, what aligns with them. So that's one of my favorite things about them. They do view themselves as a humanity experiment. We're an experiment. We are changing things all the time. Come and see what you think, and see that it's possible, and see what works for us or what aligns with you, and take it from there.
Just astounding. It's an astounding principle.
But like the three of you getting together, I know that when I was living out in the desert, we got together, and if you work on projects together, you build an energy. And we experiment in our own ways, don't we? Maybe not quite scientifically. I don't have those kind of friends. But we experiment with ritual and with energies and with working together and creating, my young hippie children would call them love bombs. I had so many of them.
Out of here. Oh, what a magnificent story. Give us some of your talk, because I know the Beatles went off and they did their own single albums too. So besides your group, which they can look up on your website, some of the things you're doing, such as the wisdom gathering sessions, Jennifer, etc.
I have studied with Jean Houston for the last 3-4 years, mentoring with her, and it's been an amazing journey. But what I do now is human capacity, human potential, and I do it through these circles. I call them wisdom gatherings. They're virtual circles where people come together, and I lead them through the different layers of themselves, expanding into their physical, the psychological, the spiritual, and the mythic level of self. A lot of Joseph Campbell work, or different things that I've learned from processes I've learned from Jean. I've also been studied with Deepak Chopra, and so I teach meditation. I have a series coming out called Anyone Can Meditate, because I believe it's important to find a practice that works for you. It could be a mantra meditation, but it could also be breath or something else.
I have a company somewhere over which helps individuals in 2 ways. The people that are going through the dying process, I work with them on the spirit side and assist them in crossing over to make that process easier, because we've lost a lot of the deep wisdom that we've had through time to actually how community can help each other pass on to the next life. And I also work with people that have not fully crossed over. A lot of people, call those ghosts or whatever, and helping them to cross over. And the other thing that I do along with Gina, with our marketing firm, is we work with our clients in the meta space, and we tap into the informed universe, and we get all of our guidance for our clients and much more. And so I think it's all about that. I think it's all about stepping into who you really are and what your gifts really are, and continually asking the question, and what's next? What's more? What higher thing, what higher purpose could I possibly serve with?
Well, that's wonderful. I would like to take that and open that up to everybody else, because I think that's why we keep coming here. And there's some people want to learn more about astrology, so I give them a little bit, and then we zoom in and zoom out. It's not a typical course. What do you see with the things that are going down and the people that look like they're being lost, and the seesaw that's coming up with all the people who are rising into new spiritual connections?
Are you addressing that to me?
Yeah, I think that's kind of down your alley. What do you see? I'm specifically talking about the seesaw. Things appear to be getting a lot worse and a lot better at the same time.
So I guess I would like to speak to the larger overarching dynamic that I have felt for a long time, that we've moved out of our previous eras or generations where we live to survive. We wanted to get food on the table and take care of basic needs of food, shelter, the Maslow hierarchy of needs. And then we come into the second half of the 20th century, and we're able to start thinking about things other than that. We're able to have the luxury to start thinking about, well, what do I want to do with myself after I've acquired my wealth or taken care of my family? And now we're in the new millennium, the beginning of the 21st century, entering the Aquarian age. And we're, again, so privileged to be able to have the time to say, it seems like the trend has been that people are looking at how they're taking their individual gifts and bringing them out so that they can feel fulfilled within their own life. Where I see the trajectory headed in the next, 5, 10, 15 years is emphasis being taken off of the self, the individual, and that same question, we circle around back to it, but we ask, how can I serve with my gifts the collective? How can I serve the collective? Not how can I serve myself and my loved ones in my life so that I can feel fulfilled, but how can I play a role in the larger perspective of the fact that we're all just expressions of divinity, right? We're all just here trying to express, consciously express the one, or the one who made us, kind of thing. So that's what I see happening into the future, is that we move out of what's my purpose into what's my mission. Mission meaning, how do I take my purpose and apply it to the larger humanitarian goals, not just community goals or country goals, but us as a humanity. Basic human rights, equality of access to food, and everybody helping with sustainability to take care of the planet, because we're all in this together. Those kinds of things, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you very much. How about planetarium goals, Mother Earth above all?
Well, okay, so back to Damanhur for a second. They have a huge part of their philosophy has to do with what they call the three mother worlds. And the planet Earth is one of them. And so it's all about everything that they do. They have a huge aspect of teaching and learning and practice in sustainability in terms of community living.